Hey folks, it's Jake Davis with an on-the-fly review for you, and today I'm talking about The Iron Claw, released last December, directed by Sean Durkin, starring Zac Efron, Jeremy Allen White, Harrison Dickinson, got the cast for man cheating, Colt McCallany, Lily James, and Maura Tierney. This is the incredibly tragic true story of the cursed Von Erich family. A wrestling dynasty from the 1950s to the early 1990s were basically usurped by the rise of national wrestling, but suffered horrific, tragic death all throughout the course of their family. And it's a film that covers that incident. Now, I've made it very clear I'm a massive wrestling fan. I've been a wrestling fan not quite as long as I've been a fan of cinema, but it has been virtually to the same degree. The Von Erichs is the reason they call it a curse. It's just so unlikely for so much, like the Kennedy curse, so unlikely for so much horrible things to happen to such a small group of people. And just, this movie does not hold back. This is painful, tragic, emotional, powerful, poignant, and truthfully, by the time it all wraps up, a beautiful little film that they constructed here. I went to this movie. I made a joke when the trailer first dropped. It's like, you'll never see so many tough guys. So excited to see a movie that is most definitely going to make them cry. Yeah, man, I'm kind of, like, I just watched it. I'm still kind of coping with my own kind of feelings and emotions after going through the whole thing, and I mean, it was epic, and it was beautiful. I will criticize that I felt that there was so much focus on the pressure that Fritz, the dad, and the brothers put on each other, that the pressure of the expansion of national wrestling and kind of the death of the territory days, the importance of that kind of feels a little bit lost. But at the same time, this movie is trying to cover like 25 years worth of history here. I mean, the movie, it opens in 58 and ends in 93. I mean, that's a lot of time. But that's legitimately my only criticism. I thought the performances were all around amazing. Jeremy Allen White, Holt McCallany were both terrific. Harris Dickinson as David Von Erich was phenomenal. Maura Tierney as Doris Von Erich, the matriarch, was just, my God, what a reserved and mature and just steadfast performance she put in there. It was amazing. She was really fucking good in this. But definitely the star of the show is Zac Efron. Zac Efron has kind of been screwed over by bad directors and bad writers during the bulk of his run. What, 10 years ago now, Neighbors was? Where he finally got to showcase that he is an actor and he was very talented and charismatic. He just didn't ever seem to have anything that really followed that up. My wife just came in with a goofy wig. But in this, man, he just... Take, for example, he was perfectly cast as Andy McGee in the Firestarter remake, 2 years ago? 2 or 3 years ago? And, the production failed him, in my opinion. In this, Zach is... he's just... such a vulnerable... tragic state. Just amazing. Zac Efron's very magnificent in this movie. Ultimately, I walked away from this movie. Incredibly moved. And I cannot more highly recommend you see The Iron Claw. It was just... We've seen wrestling movies before. We've seen movies about wrestling before, like The Wrestler. The Wrestler and Ready to Rumble are both wrestling movies, and they're nowhere near the same kind of movie. But finally, in this situation, we had a movie that was made by a man like Sean Durkin, who is both wanted to make a good movie and wanted to portray professional wrestling in a respectful light. Not so much of the business about, the carny antics of it all, but about the sacrifice these men make. And oh my God, the absolute undying loyalty and love and camaraderie and the pillars of their own souls. It's even played like that with Efron. The more brothers he loses, the weaker he seems to be. Can you turn that off? Yeah, so respectful. Anyhow, I'm giving this very sad movie with a bluey story, or whatever the hell is back there playing. I'm giving this movie 5 stars. It's absolutely phenomenal. Hope y'all enjoyed this review. Hope you like this little micro Jawa Sarah got me. I'm Jake Davis. I'll catch you on the fly. Turn